So very good afternoon to one and all, respected resource person for this afternoon session of our NEP orientation course, Professor Varadraj Bapat sir. His academic qualification is MCom, FCA, DISA, PhD, faculty in accounting and finance. He's a professor in Indian Institute, Mumbai, and also his teaching interest is financial accounting, management accounting, Indian economics and business model. His research interest includes financial accounting, financial inclusion, bankruptcy, production, corporate governance, portfolio management, and spirituality. He has obtained his PhD in finance from Mehta School of Management, IIT Bombay. Then his PG diploma in uh, information system audit he has done from Institute of Chartered Accountants, New Delhi. From the same institute, he's a fellow, and also he has cleared final examination of chartered accountancy from ICA, ICIA in New Delhi, and final exam of cost accounting. He has done his MCom from University of Pune. He has secured 22nd All India rank in CA final examination way back in the year 1995, and has secured 47th rank in CA All India rank in intermediate exam held in way back in the year November 2000 and November 1993. He has a vast teaching experience of more than 16 years at one of the prestigious institute, that is Indian Institute of Technology, Mumbai. Also, he has been associated as a faculty in National Institute of Industrial Engineering, NIT, Mumbai, and also as a vice principal of SK Somaya College of Art, Science, and Commerce. Also, he has made lectures on notes lectures on financial and cost accounting, and also have research projects, books, and publication to his credit. So, indeed, it is really an honor and pleasure for all of us to have him here as a resource person. So, on behalf of UGC Malviya Mission Teachers Training Center, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Marathwada University, I welcome Dr. Bapat sir, and I would now hand over the proceeding to you, sir.
Namaste everyone. I
Namaste.
hope I am audible and visible.
यस सर, यू आर ऑडिबल, यू विजिबल. पार्टिसिपेंट को हमने रिस्ट्रिक्ट किया है माइक ओपन करने के लिए, क्योंकि लेक्चर में कभी डिस्टरबेंस हो जाता है उससे. तो आप को होस्ट हो, कोई किसी के कोई प्रश्न रहेंगे तो वो हाथ रेस करेंगे और आपको उनको अनम्यूट करना पड़ेगा.
Yeah, sure, no
और,
problems.
और,
So, namaste everyone. Thanks, Professor, for introducing me. A very generous introduction from my side of me. Thank you so much. And I'm very happy to note that all of you are very keenly interested in national education policy. And I hope the educators and researchers like you all understanding NEP in its true spirit and introducing it in your respective colleges would really make a lot of difference. And the topic which particularly I am going to discuss is about Indian knowledge systems. I prefer to more call it as Bharatiya knowledge. And I'm happy to note that we have got a very diverse kind of audience here. So let us go back, let us go to the subject. I'd be very happy to have an interactive session. So don't worry, you can always disturb in between. And we can have a good interaction in the place. राफे सर आप है क्या?
जी सर, अभी तो हूँ मैं, थोड़ी देर के बाद मैं चला जाऊंगा दूसरे कामों
It's
के लिए.
fine. No,
जी
but I was suggesting we can allow the participants also to talk. So
हाँ,
maybe you can allow that.
ठीक है, मैं करता हूँ. थोड़ा सा
That should
लेक्चर
be.
में डिस्टर्ब होगा तो फिर आपको म्यूट करना पड़ेगा सर उनको, आप देख लीजिए.
It's okay. It's
यस
okay.
यस
Hopefully ऐसा नहीं
यस
होगा.
यस यस सर, यस. I will give them. Now the participants can unmute themselves. Any participant can check. कोई भी आप में से कोई एक पार्टिसिपेंट चेक करिए. यस, रोल नंबर 91 you have unmuted, then 59 has unmuted. Very nice, very nice. Thanks a lot. You can close your mics. It will be a really an interactive
Yeah,
session, and honorable guest is also very eager to have interaction. So I hope that आपकी दोपहर की नींद उड़ जाएंगी आज खाना खाने के बाद की सर से.
correct.
जी जी.
So I'll be very happy you can all interact. Of course, one at a time, not everybody at the same time. but I'm sure we are all teachers, researchers, so we can maintain that discipline. Is this, I have shared my PPT. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Good. मैं थोड़ा मूव भी करता हूँ. Is it moving? Next slides आ रहा है?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It's movable.
Yeah. Sometimes वो held up हो जाता है. So I just checked it. Okay. So great. So we'll be discussing about Indian knowledge systems as it's called in NEP. Personally, I prefer to use the word Bharatiya knowledge. That's why I have titled it as Bharatiya knowledge. We'll discuss many things, but there are two main PPTs. The first one is in general, why we should learn, what is the importance of uh, going into Bharatiya knowledge, understanding it, implementing it, and so on. And the second PPT would be about application of Bharatiya knowledge more on commerce, business, management, and so far, because that is my area of study. So in the second part, we'll do it. We have a reasonably long time. We have around 3 hours. In between, I think around 1.5 hours. So 4 o'clock ke around, we'll take a break. And yeah, please feel free to ask your questions as and when you want. So in the first PPT, we'll discuss about need to study Indian knowledge systems, scope, then little bit about archaeology, culture, and so on. And in the latter part, we'll go into finance, economic thought, or business thought, etc. So we all know that Bharatiya knowledge is a very, very ancient knowledge, perhaps 1 lakh year old or at least 10,000 year old, but we have more or less lost it. So we were under different foreign rules. So almost for last 1,000 years, this is not much taught, not much studied. So this is a legacy which we are reclaiming after 1,000 years. And on top, I have put one shloka, which I hope you all can read. It says, Anu Bhadra Kratavo Yantu Vishwatah. इसका क्या मीनिंग है कोई बता सकता है या यू कैन जस्ट टेक अ गेसेस ऑन वॉट एवर वर्ड्स यू आर एबल टू ट्रांसलेट एनीवन वुड लाइक टू टेल इसका मीनिंग क्या है आई नो टीचर्स लाइक टू टॉक मोर देन लिसन so I'm interested in listening to you so any guesses
भद्र का मतलब सर जो अच्छा है धार्मिक है उसको भद्र कहते हैं आगे का
Very
नहीं
good.
समझ में आ रहा
Very good. Bhadra is Kalyankarak, something which is good for the whole society, something which is good for the whole humanity. Anything else? और कुछ आपको गेस करना है आप जरूर करिए नो नेगेटिव मार्क्स एज आई सेड हम 1000 इयर्स के बाद स्टडी कर रहे हैं तो धीरे धीरे ही समझ में आएगा डोंट वरी इवन इफ यू गो रॉन्ग एनी अदर गेसेस आई थिंक विश्व सबको समझ में आता है विश्वतः सो पूरे विश्व से दैट इज अ विश्वतः एंड आनो आई थिंक एवरीवन नोज जो हिंदी में आनो है वैसे ही है कि आनो दो यानी आने दो सो गुड थॉट्स
दुनिया भर के
भद्र
बलिदान
कारक
हमारे पास
या प्लीज मैम या रिस्पॉन्ड
दुनिया भर के बलिदान हमारे पास आने चाहिए
good thoughts I don't know what you mean by balidan bhadra are good thoughts so let us have good thoughts from everywhere in the world and we can have number of shlokas but I think this is really the essence of our Bharatiya knowledge which is not close-minded. It's not exclusivist. We are always open to get good thoughts from everywhere. And that is why our knowledge is all the time updated and it never becomes outdated. Fine. So this is our Bharatiya knowledge and variety of fields में Bharatiya knowledge.
भोजन पानी नहीं है चलो चले ही लो
Please no talking in between. आपका
क्योंकि
mic बंद
अपन लोगों
रखिए
से ज्यादा
please.
उनको भाई समय पर दिखाना है
Somebody has kept mic open. Please close your mic. Okay. So we all live in Bharat. We are all Bharatiyas or Indians. So ये भारत शब्द का अर्थ क्या है? What do you understand by Bharat? Again, you can have variety of meanings. It could not necessarily it's right or wrong. So whatever you know, you can always share with the whole group. So what is Bharat? थोड़ा इजी करने के लिए दो पार्ट बताता हूं. देर आर टू पार्ट्स ऑफ दिस वर्ड. एक भा है और एक रथ है. तो भा का अर्थ या और रथ का अर्थ कोई बता सकते हैं तो प्लीज गो अहेड.
भरत से भारत होता है सर भरत क्षेत्रे भारत खंडे
यू आर राइट. जब संकल्प किया जाता है तो भरत वर्षीय भरत खंडे ऐसा बोला जाता है. बिकॉज नेम ऑफ आवर नेशन वॉज भारत फॉर लिटरली थाउजेंड्स ऑफ ईयर्स. आई थिंक फरूकी जी ने एक अच्छा रिस्पॉन्स दिया है ऑन चैट. And he has said that one indulging in light, the shining one, or the one that pursues light. Very good response. Others can also, yeah, go ahead if you have any other answers to share. So, Faruqi Muktedar, I think, if I have rightly pronounced, I think he's right. Basically, Bha means light. और रथ मीन्स गेटिंग एंगेज गेटिंग इन्वॉल्व. वैसे हिंदी में भी रथ होता है कि मैं इसमें रथ हूं कि ये मुझे अच्छा लगता है. सो भा मीन्स लाइट में या फिजिकली लाइट बट मोर एट इंटेलेक्चुअल लेवल इट इज नॉलेज. So we are a nation which is engaged into knowledge generation, knowledge sharing, and so on. And that is why we are Bharat. And we have this tradition of thousands of years. In between उसमें थोड़ा सा break आ गया. But this Bharatiya knowledge is an attempt to once again go back to it. Roll number 49 इन्होंने भी अच्छा response दिया है कि it could have come from King Bharat. So Bharat was one of the kings, ancestors of, he was from Surya Vamsha as we call it. And so a Surya Vamshi Raja and he was a great king. So possible hai unke naam se bhi aaya ho. But perhaps I think Bharat name is much more ancient. It is rather from the name of the nation a particular person or a king would have been named. But anyway, so we are a civilization, we are a culture, we are a society, and we are a nation which is engaged in knowledge generation and sharing. And we hope that the process is again started. Ano Badra Kratavo Yantu Vishwataha, we have already discussed. This is from Rigved Samhita, and we know that Rigved is the most ancient of any text which human beings have written. So may noble thoughts come to us from everywhere in the world. That is what this Ano Badraha is. There are some important features of Bharatiya knowledge system. Once again, I request everyone to mute, please. जब आपको बोलना हो जरूर unmute करिए. But see to it that the session is not disturbed. So we know that this is the oldest tradition in the world. So as a civilization, as a culture, there were a few ancient cultures. We are one of the most ancient of them, and speciality of our culture is that it's a continuing tradition. So we had Egyptian culture, we had Roman culture, we had Mesopotamian civilization, but all of them were completely destroyed. And current population over there do not have any continuity. Whereas in Bharat, we have a very, very long, continuous civilization. 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, we see so many things which have continued. So that is really our speciality, that we are a continuing civilization. Then there is a scientific base. So we have a vast amount of literature in Bharatiya knowledge systems, in our traditional knowledge. And it is very, very scientifically based, completely logical. If you little bit also dwell into our civilization, you can see that, yes, there is a very long scientific knowledge tradition. Next is its evergreen. जैसा मैंने कहा कि ये हमेशा we are open to good thoughts. That's what has made our knowledge evergreen. It's not closed at a point of time कि इसके आगे कोई addition नहीं हो सकता. Every time we study, restudy, apply, reapply, there is a continuous addition. It's an evergreen knowledge. And this is an inclusive one. That's why we don't have any exclusions कि ये सही नहीं है, जो हमारा है वही सही है, ऐसा नहीं है. From everywhere we are ready to take the good thoughts. So what we are doing when we study Bharatiya knowledge or Bharatiya traditional knowledge or IKS is, we are essentially trying to reclaim our own heritage. But remember, it's not just for Indians, it's not just for our society, it is meant for the whole humanity. Because our ancestors, our rishis never restricted the knowledge only for our society. They said that this is a good knowledge, it will help everyone in the world. And I'm sure our studying of IKS or Bharatiya knowledge would again be adding back to our knowledge. Now going to some specific examples, I think some of you would be aware about haldi case or turmeric case. So anyone knows, you can add what you have heard or read about. There was some case about turmeric. So कोई add करना चाहता है तो please feel free to add. थोड़ा सा शायद आपने सुना होगा कि there were some patents on turmeric. बाद में उसमें some legal process करके we fought back and we got those patent cancelled. But anyone knows more, please share with the class. हल्दी का उपयोग तो सभी जानते हैं. For what do we use haldi and how it is helpful to the humanity? ओके, अश्विन कुमार जी ने अच्छा आंसर दिया है that turmeric is used to heal wounds. Anyway, Ashwini Kumar was also known as an ancient Vaidya, so very good name of his. It has antiseptic properties, you are right. इसीलिए विवाह के एक दिन पहले हल्दी का कार्यक्रम किया जाता है. So that new जिनका वेडिंग होना है उनको हल्दी अप्लाई की जाती है, बाकी लोगों को भी हल्दी अप्लाई की जाती है. और जो कुमकुम होता है उसमें भी वही हल्दी का ही बनाया जाता है. Anyone else wants to add any other properties of haldi? So we know that this is a traditional Indian knowledge. Crores of people know it. And yes, Rohini ji ने अच्छा आंसर दिया है that it has antiseptic properties and it is also one of our spices which we use in our food. So यहाँ पे मैंने थोड़ा सा details दिया है of the case which you all can see that yeah 67 roll number ने बोला कि cooking for adding flavor. Yes, true. So turmeric, we know that we use it for several centuries and it's very important as a medicine, as a cosmetic, as a dye, and also as our spice. But in 1995, US Patent Office granted a patent on turmeric. और अगर वो पेटेंट ऐसे ही रहता तो it would be impossible to use turmeric for any commercial use. घर में फिर भी हम लोग यूज कर सकते थे बट टर्मेरिक क्रीम्स वगैरह सब इम्पॉसिबल होते और वी हैव टू पे रॉयल्टी to that American company anytime the turmeric is being used. So who fought it, how it was fought, anyone knows? So this is a very interesting story. 1953 May, there was a published paper in the Journal of Indian Medical Association about use of haldi, use of turmeric, and several ancient Sanskrit texts also mention haldi. So Indian Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, actually filed a re-examination case with US Patent Office, and in 1996, so this patent was granted in 95, but because it was fought very well, in 97, the patent was revoked, saying that there is no novel, this is not any novel approach, and this is a known knowledge in India for centuries. So this is a very landmark judgment wherein traditional knowledge being patented was successfully challenged. There was a similar case on neem also. So anyone has heard about neem case? neem का किसके लिए यूज होता है, कोई बता सकता है? हल्दी जैसा हम लोग नीम भी बहुत यूज करते हैं. So anyone is able to remember, tell it? Yes, कैसर जहान जी ने अच्छा बोला कि it has anti-inflammatory properties. गिरिधर रेड्डी जी भी बता रहे हैं कि एंटीसेप्टिक, स्किन केयर, ब्यूटी यूजेस. ट्रू. एनीथिंग एल्स? उसके केस के बारे में किसी ने सुना है? क्योंकि नीम पे भी पेटेंट लिया गया था. या अश्विन कुमार जी इज राइट. नीम स्टिक्स कैन बी यूज्ड एज अ टूथब्रश. In fact, it's a very natural item wherein we can take very good care of our teeth, much better than using toothpaste and brush. Yeah, Rohini ji is right. This has antimicrobial properties as well. So both neem oil, uske patte, and uski lakdi, all of them are useful. So anyone knows about the patent? Yeah, it can be used in shampoo. उसके seeds से extract भी किया जाता है. You're right. Yeah, Imtiaz ji, you can go ahead. Now, no need to raise hands. Please go ahead. You can respond. परुकी जी ने भी अच्छा बताया कि इट इज रिच इन विटामिन ई and it can repair damaged skin cells. Very true. इम्तियाज जी आप go ahead करिए, you can unmute. You can unmute and respond, please. Okay, so बहुत सारे लोगों ने अच्छे प्रॉपर्टीज उसके बताए हैं and it is also a very good medicine for meningitis and for relieving from malaria and so on. So in 1994, in fact, नीम के हल्दी के भी पहले नीम पर पेटेंट लिया गया था. So European Patent Office granted patent to US corporation WR Grace Company, and patent was again given by US Department of Agriculture, particularly for controlling fungi on plants. Now this was pretty difficult to fight because in case of haldi there was a research paper. नीम पे कोई specific research paper नहीं था. So several NGOs got together and representatives of Indian farmers filed. I'm sorry, but there is a disturbance. Please ऐसा मत करिए सभी लोग. Please mute yourself. Whenever you want, you can unmute, but don't keep your mics on. I don't want to unmute you, all of you. I'll be very happy with discussion, but please don't disturb the class. इसको पता चल रहा है who is talking, because I am not able to see. तो क्षितिजा जी ने भी सही उत्तर दिया है about antimicrobial properties and antifungal properties. So what I was discussing was, इसका कोई specific paper नहीं था. So it took a long time. Only in May 2000, EPO revoked this patent for lack of inventive steps, but the company challenged it, saying that they have an invention. And finally, in 2006, that challenge to revocation was also rejected, and there is no longer patent on NEM. So why I told you both the cases, because unless there are research papers, it becomes very difficult to stop any patent. In case of haldi, luckily there was a research paper, but हमारा इतना सारा भारतीय knowledge है जो well documented नहीं है. Crores of people know it, we use it in our day-to-day life, but it is very important that we do research, we do publications. All of you are good researchers. आप सभी लोग कुछ ना कुछ publications करते होंगे. So I would call upon you to study Bharatiya knowledge related to your domain, related to your area, and try to publish on it. It's very important that we do publications and we also use it in our teaching. Next example I'm going to talk about is about yoga. आप सभी जानते हैं कि now yoga is recognized all over the world as a Bharatiya knowledge, but earlier there were several attempts to patent it, to claim it as knowledge of somewhere else. So you know that International Yoga Day was announced. When was it announced? किसको पता है? International Yoga Day कब से आया? And which day is a International Day of Yoga? मुझे नाम तो नहीं दिख रहा है, बट 59, शहीन, अक्षय, रोहिणी जी सभी ने सही उत्तर दिया है. 21st June, which happens to be the largest day, the longest day. अश्विनी कुमार जी ने भी भाई सही बोला है, दैट्स द इंटरनेशनल डे ऑफ योगा. वो कब से मनाया जाता है? व्हेन वाज इट अप्रूव्ड बाय शहीन जी ने 2014 बोला है, समीना जी और डॉक्टर पठान 2015 बोल रहे हैं. व्हाट इज द करेक्ट आंसर? रामदास जी 2015, 59 says 2015. Actually, both are correct. The move was put to United Nations in 2014 and it was approved almost unanimously by all the nations. So that's also history where a particular day proposed by Bharat and immediately approved by all the nations. And that was done in 2014 when Modi ji first visited, as a prime minister. And the first time it was celebrated was in 2015. So 21st June 2015, in that sense, is a first time International Day of Yoga. So that was a very important move. So now it is recognized all over the world that योग has emerged from Bharat. वैसे हम उसको पेटेंट नहीं करना चाहते हैं. We want that everyone uses that knowledge. But unfortunately, several people have tried. So asanas. So many of the asanas are patented by several US universities and also by companies कि इस disease के लिए इस तरह से आसन करो, and that is our invention. When it is actually from yogic texts, but some people do some studies and claim it to be their own asan. And there are so many systems of pranayam for improving breath, for improving concentration, for improving our inner well-being. But उसमें भी बहुत सारे claims हो चुके थे. And more recently, there are several systems of dhyana also, which improve our concentration, which improve our mind power, and it also gives us actually something beyond, much more happiness and so on. But there are again attempts to patent all this, but now it is more or less recognized all over the world that the roots of this come from Bharat and it's a public knowledge, so it should not be allowed to be patented. Now, one more from management type of disciplines, that is about Karma Yoga as a model of motivation. Now, many of you would have studied several models of motivation or several theories of motivation. So, can you name few models? जैसे मोटिवेशन की बहुत सारे थियरीज होते हैं, तो आर यू एबल टू रिमेम्बर फ्यू ऑफ देम? किसी को याद आ रहा है कोई मोटिवेशन थियरी आपने कभी पढ़ाई होगी या पढ़ी होगी? ओके, सुलोचना देवी ने बोला है कि मैस्लोज नीड हिरार्की एज इट्स कॉल्ड. सो देयर इज अ मैस्लो थियरी वेरी फेमस. एनीथिंग एल्स? You might have also heard about Herzberg theory There are various theories, and almost all of them are Western in origin. And they basically are outcome oriented, they are incentive oriented. So if we perform well, we get some reward and we feel happy, we will even perform better. So a performer is motivated and is set to do even better. That's how most of the theories are. But in fact, Karma Yoga can be a very good model of motivation. कर्म योग भी बहुत सारे लोगों ने पढ़ा होगा, सुना होगा. सो एनीवन वुड लाइक टू टेल व्हाट इज कर्म योग, और उसका कोई श्लोक आपको पता है तो वो भी बता सकते हैं, both orally as well as through chat. कर्मयोग क्या होता है, कोई बोल सकता है? ओके, समीना जी ने बहुत अच्छा रिस्पॉन्स किया है कि निस्वार्थ भाव से काम करना. वेरी गुड. एनी अदर, एनीवन एल्स वांट्स टू ऐड समथिंग? ओके, पूजा जी ने भी अच्छा लिखा है, सेल्फलेस एक्शंस.
ये सब जानना है मैं वहां कुछ लगा नहीं है तो वैसे एक कप बड़ा सा कप सका मीठी कम करने हैं वे सब चीज सब जाना ही होगा.
So I have tried to share the famous shloka now. या क्षितिजा जी ने लिखा है, सेल्फलेस एक्शन परफॉर्म फॉर द बेनिफिट ऑफ अदर्स. सो ये श्लोक काफी फेमस है. कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्य मा फलेषु कदाचन मा फल हेतु माते संगोस्त कर्मणि. आई थिंक, मुझे लगता है मुझे सबको म्यूट करना पड़ेगा क्योंकि कोई तो बात कर रहा है अनफॉर्चुनेटली एंड इज नॉट म्यूटिंग देमसेल्स. या प्लीज गो अहेड, वॉट एवर यू नो अबाउट कर्म योगा यू कैन टेल. माइक पे आपको बताते हैं तो एक्चुअली बेटर है. इफ नॉट यू कैन गिव इट ऑन चैट. या पूजा जी ने लिखा है, इट इज योगा ऑफ एक्शन. हाँ, सो मैं आपको श्लोक बता रहा था, इसका अर्थ भी यहाँ लिखा है एंड आई थिंक ऑल ऑफ यू वुड नो इट, दैट हमारा जो अधिकार है वो कर्म करने का है एंड वी डोंट हैव टू लुक एट कर्म फल. इट डजंट मीन कि कर्म का फल नहीं मिलेगा. कर्म का फल मिलने ही वाला है. बट एवरी टाइम वी आर डूइंग वर्क, our concentration, our focus should be only on work, and we don't have to.
बड़े पनीर सब्जी दाल पनीर सब्जी छोले पापड़ गुलाब जामुन वो दही सलाद रहता है ना दही फ्रूट रायता वो और सूप टमाटर सूप वो सब कुछ चतुर्वेदी के यहाँ बाद में है वे तो मैंने काट दिए नहीं इतना तक खाने मैं क्या काट क्या है उसकी चाची
Tala Begum. Yeah, namaste. Yeah, am I audible again? Now I have muted everyone. Unfortunately, कोई तो disturb कर रहा था and I mean repeated request के बाद भी nobody stopped. I mean I don't know who was that. But anyway, so ये श्लोक आपने पढ़ा होगा कि कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्य, तो हमारा जो अधिकार है वो कर्म करने का है. So as we do any activity or work, we should completely focus on the work. नॉर्मली क्या होता है कि हमारा आधा ध्यान पीछे रहता है कि डू वी गेट रिवॉर्ड्स, डू वी गेट रिवॉर्ड, डू वी गेट रिवॉर्ड्स, और उसमें हमारे कर्म करने की एफिशिएंसी कम हो जाती है. सो कर्मयोग बोलता है कि कंप्लीटली पुट all efforts into karma. Don't worry about rewards. Rewards will anyway follow. इसलिए माँ कर्म फल हेतुर्भु, यानी कर्म फल के लिए कर्म मत करिए, but you do the work for the sake of satisfaction of doing the work. Last part जो है वो भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, which says माते संगोस्त्व कर्मणि. That means क्योंकि कर्म के फल पर ध्यान नहीं देना है, लोग आलसी बन जाएंगे. So this says that आलसी भी मत बनो. Though you don't have to look at karma phala, don't have asakti of akarma also. Asakti means कर्म में भी इन्वॉल्व मत होइए, बट अकर्म में भी इन्वॉल्व मत होइए. सो वी शुड पुट our best, you should do our best, and we will get the rewards. Now, this is the Karma Yoga, which many of you would already know it. You can see here in English also. Now, what I was saying was almost all Western models of motivation are essentially reward driven. So one who performs well gets rewarded. उसको अच्छा लगता है and will perform even better. But there are a lot of people who cannot perform or they are below average. What will happen to them? As per Western model, they should be thrown out. It's a principle of survival of the fittest. But in reality, it doesn't happen. People are not thrown out. वो लोग भी organization में ही रहते हैं. And after some time, they try to pull legs of others. Because they cannot perform, they also don't want others to perform. That's a problem of reward-based motivational models. But भारतीय चिंतन जो है, भारतीय मॉडल जो है, वो ये बोलता है कि you do the best work for the satisfaction, and that is karma yoga. So it takes care of high performers, but it also takes care of underperformers. That even if you don't get reward, you are not dissatisfied. Western models में क्या होता है? It leads to disillusionment, it leads to several mental troubles. Whereas if we follow karma yoga, top performers are happy, but underperformers will also be happy. So it's a beautiful model of motivation, but it was never put it that way. But one of my students actually studied it, presented it, and also published several papers on karma yoga as a model of motivation. So I was just giving you an example that there are so many aspects of our knowledge. First two were more tangible on science side or on Ayurveda, जैसे हल्दी हो या नीम हो, but equally good examples, principles, concept exist in all areas. So please identify such areas and you can go ahead and study on them. Yeah, any comments from anyone or anyone wants to add something, you can please add. Okay, आप सोचते रहिए, ऐसे बहुत सारे कंसेप्ट्स आपको आपके एरिया में जरूर मिलेंगे, एंड दैट्स वेयर एक्चुअली यू कैन डू मोर रिसर्च इनटू भारतीय नॉलेज. सो वील गो अहेड, discuss few more things. So now this traditional knowledge digital library is created so that patenting of our knowledge is avoided, and उसके ऊपर भारत सरकार ने कुछ काम किया है. इंडियन पेटेंट ऑफिस नाउ अलाउज search of our traditional knowledge so that no patent authority abroad would give patents on our existing knowledge and so on. Going ahead, you can see here that how important it is to preserve our heritage. So I have shown you some picture here. What is this? कोई बता सकता है ये कैसा पिक्चर है, क्या है, या कहाँ का है? Yeah, this is Gautam Buddha, right? Rohini ji, 51. Yes, Rohini ji is right. This is from Afghanistan. Gautam Buddha statue, you are right. Vishal Singh Chauhan ji ने बोला है. And what happened to it? उसका क्या स्टोरी है या क्या स्पेशलिटी है? कोई कुछ you can add something? उसकी हाइट कितनी बड़ी है आप देख सकते हैं कि people are so small compared to that huge मूर्ति of Gautam Buddha ji. In which part of Afghanistan it is there? Does that still exist? That Murti of Buddha? Yeah, Vishal ji is right. When Taliban took control of Afghanistan, they have actually destroyed it. And this is very recent example in 1990s. So you can imagine how much of our heritage would have been destroyed in last 1,000 years. Not just murtis, but there are so many other things, structures, our libraries, our knowledge sources, our mandirs, so many things have been destroyed. So that tells us the importance of preserving our culture. We'll go to next slide if you don't have to add a thing. So you know that we were attacked by Arabs, Afghans, Mughals, and so on, as well as British, and they made all attempts to destroy Bharatiya culture and impose their own culture. The earlier attackers like Arabs and Afghans and Mughals, they mainly destroyed tangible things. But British were different. They were very shrewd, very cunning. They tried to destroy our very own systems, our very own knowledge. They tried to pollute. So you might have heard of this Indian Education Act 1935. ये किसने इंट्रोड्यूस किया था, किसको पता है? मैंने जानबूझ के नाम नहीं लिखा है, वो नाम आपको पता होगा, बहुत सारे जगह में बोला जाता है. And this is the objective of Indian Education Act 1835, as you can see here. So who was the person who introduced that act? This was introduced in British Parliament, which completely changed our educational system. Yes, 59 जी जो है उन्होंने सही आंसर दिया है. He was Lord Macaulay. अक्षय शिंदे जी ने भी सही बोला है. So Lord Macaulay presented this bill to British Parliament and completely destroyed our existing education system, which was based on gurukuls, madrasas, and so on. And then they imposed British system of schools and colleges. The objective of this act is to have people who are Indian in blood and color, but English in tests, opinions, in morals and intellect. And they also said that we want black Britishers, as they call it. So what does this mean? What is that objective? क्यों वो objective बोला गया है? Someone would like to elaborate? Please raise your hand if you want to talk. I'll be more happy if you actually express yourself on video. But if not possible, you can also write it on chat. So AJ बोल रहे हैं कि Indian in blood and color, but English in test. What does that signify? So meaning ये है कि the objective of this education system was to develop population which will be Indians. They would look like us, but mindset would be completely British. Their morals, their tests, their intellect. Unfortunately, we are also products of the same system. That's why we have such a deep impact of imperial British English culture on us. So though it's our own traditional knowledge we are learning, हमको ऐसे लगता है कि हम कुछ नया सीख रहे हैं, हम कुछ unknown सीख रहे हैं, because that was completely removed from our education, and whatever good of ours was whitewashed, and whatever bad things our culture had or what were not there also were put in. So that had a very deep impact on Indian mindset. So remember, when the culture is destroyed, it's not just the tangible culture, intangible culture was also destroyed. From British records themselves, there are books by Dharampal ji and others which show that we had a very, very developed educational system at the time of arrival of British. British destroyed it. हमारे यहाँ पे सब लोग पढ़े लिखे थे, they could read and write, and later on it went away, and caste divisions, etc. were created. Anyway, I'll not go into much details of it, but I'm just trying to tell that why it is so important that we reclaim our knowledge, our heritage. यहाँ पे आप next slide में देख सकते हैं कि cultural heritage is mainly of two types. It is tangible as well as intangible. Tangible में again you have immovable heritage, which includes monuments, which includes temples, which includes archaeological sites, historical buildings, and so on. Movable में paintings है, sculptures है, old furniture, old paintings, etc. exist. And so tangible is something you can see. And when that is destroyed again, society comes to know. But intangible is equally important, which includes oral traditions, which includes our ancient scriptures, our habits, science, our traditional skills, etc. So attempts were made to destroy whole of culture, जिसमें दोनों है, tangible भी है और intangible है. So भारतीय knowledge or IKS is an attempt to reclaim all these things. Okay, moving ahead. Anytime, as I said, please feel free to comment. So we'll go ahead now. यहाँ पे आप देख सकते हैं कि यहाँ पे कुछ ancient लिपि लिखी हुई है. So that is our ancient Brahmi script. So old archaeological जो sites है जहां पे ये ब्राह्मी स्क्रिप्ट पाई जाती है, इट्स देयर इन ऑल पार्ट्स ऑफ भारत, इंक्लूडिंग इन अफगानिस्तान एंड तिब्बत एंड सो ऑन. एंड यू कैन ऑल्सो सी द ओल्ड कॉइन्स और which also have this Brahmi type of script, which is our ancient script. यहाँ पे आप कुछ कॉइन्स या ट्रेडिंग सील्स देख सकते हैं. What are they showing? कोई कुछ ऐड कर सकता है based on what is you can see here. Okay, 51 जी ने लिखा है कि they are from King Ashoka period. Yeah, some of them, but actually they are much ancient also. They could be 3000, 4000, 5000 BC and so on. Okay, यहाँ पे कुछ आप old coins या seals देख सकते हैं. So what do they convey? What do you understand from this? कौन कौन से एनिमल्स दिख रहे हैं? Yeah, elephants, rhinos, bull. Of course, आप लोग छोटे बच्चे नहीं हो. I know you all know these answers. But what is it signifying? As teachers, researchers, आपको इससे क्या समझता है? That's something I'm very happy to know from you. So please don't keep quiet. Please keep on sharing your knowledge. Please respond more. तब हमारा सेशन अच्छे से आगे जाएगा. आप ये देख सकते हैं कि these are some of the seals from मोहिंजोदड़ो, हराप्पा एंड सो ऑन. तो उसमें बुल है, हमारे जो ट्रेडिशनल सिंबल्स है उसमें आप देख सकते हैं कि दिस इज अ सैक्रेड बुल. उसमें हाथी भी है, बट उतने ही नहीं, उधर राइनो भी है. दैट मीन्स आवर कल्चर, राइनो वी नो इट्स फ्रॉम असम, फ्रॉम नॉर्थ ईस्ट. एंड उसमें हॉर्स भी है. So earlier Britishers and some people said that horse was not known in Bharat, but it's all bullshit. And in fact, we had a good communication system within our nation, even in those days, as you can easily see from old coins or old things. One more thing, again from Sindhu Saraswati culture or Harappan culture, as it can be called, there used to be standard weights and measures. And they were in the ratio of 1:16. Our current metric system is 1:10. So you can see here the trade was so well developed कि standard coins भी थे and weights and measures were also there. Here you can see cotton, and Indians was the only civilization in ancient era which could cultivate cotton and use cotton for clothing. अभी ये लग सकता है इसमें कौन सी बड़ी बात है, but in those days most other cultures were not knowing clothing. It was Bharatiya traders who took textiles abroad and taught them literally to use clothing, especially cotton clothes. So it is very important, as I was saying, to research, collaborate, and there are so many of our ancient knowledge that there are 3 million manuscripts which are still there, which are not looked up. Only 10% have been accessed and read. And this is after destruction of lakhs of manuscripts. What are remaining itself are more than 3 million manuscripts. So there is a vast scope to study it and unearth that knowledge. Okay, so with this, the first slide is over. Anyone would like to add something, please feel free to add. So we know that there are several myths spread about our culture. I'll just stop sharing for some time. Okay, so first PPT was over. So we know that, have you heard of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa? What is that? Someone can tell? I have once again unmuted everyone, so you can directly talk now. Okay, 59 इन्होंने बोला है कि civilized city, very good. Anything else? Please directly talk. That's much better. मुझे नाम नहीं पता है, but 10 जो कोई है, they are saying that they are ancient civilization. Very true. Anything else? Very true. It's a very, very rich kind of culture, ancient heritage. First archaeological site with two-story structures and well-planned cities. Remember, in those days, 3000 BC or at least 2000 BC में such type of cultures, use of technology, use of wheels, and it was wrongly called as Sindhu civilization. Actually, it's Sindhu Saraswati civilization because it ranges right up to Gujarat, Rajasthan, and Haryana of today's. And which is the most recent site? Because मोइंगोजोडो हड़प्पा तो बहुत पुराना हो गया, 1930s में मिला है. रिसेंटली कोई साइट मिले हैं उसमें, किसको पता है? Okay, Vishal ji has very good answer that there is a drainage system, water tanks, well-planned cities. Recent sites किसको पता है उसके? Yes, Sinavli in UP, you are right. Anything else? Have you heard of Rakhi Gadi? One of the very interesting sites in Haryana is Rakhi Gadi. Okay, Lothal भी सही बताया गया है, though it's not very recently found. बट लोथल का वैशिष्ट्य कोई बता सकते हैं? 51 जी आप बता सकते हो व्हाट इज लोथल एंड वहां पे क्या स्पेशल है? या राखी गढ़ी में क्या स्पेशल है? एक्चुअली हराप्पन इज अ ओल्ड टर्मिनोलॉजी बिकॉज पहली साइट हराप्पा थी तो उसको हराप्पन बोलने लगे, बट स्टिल ओके यू कैन कॉल इट हरप्पन और हराप्पन व्हाटएवर. बट लोथल में क्या है बता सकते हैं? बिकॉज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट साइट इन गुजरात. Lothal is a port city in Gujarat, one of the longest platforms, a very, very big harbor, even by today's standards. In those days, you can imagine longest platform, kitna bada harbor hoga in Lothal. And have you heard of Rakhi Gadi? Rakhi Gadi mein rath mila hai. So horses, chariots and all these things have also been found. मैं इसके बहुत सारे डिटेल्स में नहीं जा रहा हूं. या वेरी गुड रेफरेंस गिवन बाय जहान कैसर जी about Hisar. This is in Hisar district of Haryana. So what I'm saying, it's a vast area. It's not just in Sindhu. It's from Sindhu to Saraswati. And that Saraswati has been mentioned in our ancient scriptures, in Vedas in detail. And remember, बहुत सारे myths फैले गए that Aryans came from outside, Indians को horses पता नहीं है, Aryans destroyed this culture. Later on, they said Aryans were good people, but then they destroyed Dravidian culture and so on. These are all myths, all wrong things. They have all been disproved. And ancient archaeological sites are showing that we knew horses. We had a very, very ancient civilization. We had a continuing civilization. यहाँ से आर्यंस बाहर गए हैं, यहाँ से बहुत सारे societies बाहर गए हैं. They have developed some civilization in Europe, in Central Asia, in Arabia, in Armenia, and so on. That is why languages have so much of similarity. So our ancient Sanskrit has some similarity with Armenian and Arabic or even Latin. And later days Sanskrit has similarity with German, with Russian, and so on. Anyway, we will not go into that much details, but I just wanted to say that almost all areas of knowledge were explored even in those days, whether it is architectural, whether it is civil engineering, whether it is metallurgy, and so on. And it is not just restricted to Sindh, Rajasthan, Haryana, and so on. There are so many sites in MP, in middle part of Bharat, in South India, in Assam, in Odisha, and so on. So any site in Madhya Pradesh, have you heard of? Ancient site?
Working Mechanical Lab 1. Oh, madam, Deshpande madam, मला थोडी help करा ना, हे कसं टाकतं.
Oh, again somebody is talking. Please mute yourself if you are talking to each other.
तुम्ही evaluation हे practical ची sheet
Okay.
तुम्ही भरत असाल ना?
Madhya Pradesh has a very important site known as Bhimbetka. Bhimbetka बहुत ही पुराना साइट है. Okay, सांची स्तूप भी है, but maybe around 5,000 old. But Bhimbetka could be at least 60,000. It can be as old as 1 lakh years old. जहाँ पे ancient pictures है. बहुत सारे हर स्टेट में है. So मैं और डिटेल में नहीं जाता हूँ. या Dholavira is also a right answer. So there are so many things to study in our Bharatiya knowledge. And I'll now share the other PPT which is more on commerce management and that type of domain. Anyone wants to add something or ask something, please feel free to ask.
त्यांना चेंज करावं लागणार आहे ना.
हा
मी
चालेल.
सांगते कारण उगीच काहीतरी डेटा टाकायचा म्हणून नको टाकायला.
मलाही तसंच वाटतं.
मॅम हे डिलीट करायचं. हा
एकच मिनिट एवढं कर.
त्यांनी वन मध्ये पण तसंच टाकलेलं आहे का?
हम्म.
नाही बरं का ते नंतर तुम्ही झाल्यानं मला अवघड होईल एकाच्या सह्या नाही.
आपण डिसाईडच नाही केलं ना मॅडम. कोण म्हणे डिसाईड केलेलं
केलं का?
16.
सुजाता मैम
हा.
सुजाता मैम
प्रोजेक्ट रिव्यू शेड्यूल एंड डिटेल.
Okay, I have shared another PPT now. Are you able to view it? अभी आपको चैट पे ही बोलना पड़ेगा because I have muted you all because of too much of disturbance. So are you able to see the next PPT? Yes, thank you, Sulochana ji. And is it moving also? Fine. So we'll continue our discussion till 4 o'clock and then take a break. अभी मैं second part I'm trying to discuss, and that is about Bharatiya knowledge, particularly more in commerce, finance, management, and so on. I am sure it will be equally interesting to all of you. So we know that whenever we talk of economic or business thoughts, typically the major thoughts are capitalism and communism, which all of you would have studied. So when was capitalism introduced? कोई बता सकता है who were the major economists who proposed it? Please put it on chat. Okay, Rohini ji is very much fond of ancient knowledge, so उन्होंने सीधा आचार्य चाणक्य बता दिया, which is true. But current question is capitalism किसने बताया, कब आया, who was the father of economics? कासर जहान जी ने अच्छा आंसर दिया है that this was more or less introduced around 16th century, as she has put it, and Adam Smith is generally called as father of economics. Sangeeta ji and Samina ji ने भी अच्छा आंसर किया है. So Sulochana ji has also said correctly. So normally around 1770s, it is believed that capitalism became a major model. मैं बहुत डिटेल में नहीं गया हूं, just one or two cartoons, and that is where big businesses were brought in. And you can see here in this cartoon that the objective of capitalism was extract everyone, make maximum profit, and lot of exploitation was done by capitalists. That exploitation was of labor, it was exploitation of consumers, and most importantly, it was also exploitation of colonies. So भारत का बहुत exploitation किया गया, economic exploitation. Labor was exploited in Europe. even consumers were exploited all over the world because these capitalists has huge monopolies. So capitalism became extremely unpopular. For a few capitalists, it was making a lot of money, but for everyone else, it was bringing in a lot of unhappiness. So as a response to capitalism, communist ideology was brought in. So when was it brought in and who was the propagator? कोई कुछ details बता सकता है about communism? Of course, you can do Google search, but please don't do it. जितना आपको याद है, please feel free to share. किसने लाया था communism? Who were the major propagators? And in which years? And which country became first communist country? I'll request everyone to be much more interactive. थोड़ा सा हम लोग गप्पे मारेंगे तो ज्यादा मजा आएगा rather than giving a monologue. You're all very intelligent people, so I don't have to tell you give a lecture. It will be more interesting if we discuss. So please be more interactive. So communism का जो main motto था, as they put it to the people, was शोषण मुक्ति and samanata, end of exploitation and equality. So it became very popular amongst workers in the Europe, and the propagators were, you all know, Karl Marx, and it was like ऐसे लगा था कि some of the industrial country would become a communist because of support from labor. But which country became communist first? किसको याद है कुछ?
Russia.
Very true. Russia was the country in which year? Okay, Sangeeta ji has good answer. There is a writing called Das Kapital by Karl Marx. So Russia in the post First World War, 1918 to be precise, there was a revolution and communists took control of Russia, and within 2 years they spread the control of communism across several countries near Russia. जिसमें कि आज भी जो war हो रहा है, that includes Ukraine, Poland and so many countries, 18 countries, and then USSR was formed. That was a big communist kind of country, and that is why there was a big bloc known as communist bloc, and on the other side there was a capitalist bloc. And ये दोनों ideologies के बीच में बहुत वर्षों तक कोल्ड वॉर चला. So who was leading from capitalist side? Major countries. And when did that cold war ended? So right from 1920 there was a Cold War between USSR and US, या पहले European nations like UK and France. So long time there was a tussle. When did the tussle end and why did it end? Many of you remember that it happened in Germany. जर्मनी में कुछ हुआ था, बाद में रशिया में कुछ हुआ, कुछ याद आ रहा है किसको? So there was a collapse of Berlin Wall in 1989. उसके बाद में there was glasnost in Russia. रशिया के टुकड़े टुकड़े हो गए. And then the Cold War ended. And in almost all the countries, communism was destroyed. Communism give up किया गया. Why did the communism end? Because it talked about end of exploitation of and inequality, etc. But why did it end like? So there was no war from US, but internally the people of communist countries themselves threw away communism. What were the reasons? Why did the communism collapse? So there were several problems. As you can see in the next slide, now it is well documented that more than 10 crore people were killed within communist countries, mainly in China and Russia. So there was no freedom to enterprise, no freedom to earn money, also no freedom of religion. So thousands of churches were destroyed in Russia, thousands of temples and mutts were destroyed in China. And freedom of expression, speech, worship, etc. was not there. And there was hardly any incentive to perform better. All this led to very slow growth and huge poverty. And that led to people from communist regimes giving up those communist countries. Of course, few countries were shrewd. They have continued communism. Any country or any nation where communism is continued even now? कोई कुछ बता सकता है?
China.
To China, anywhere else? And are they truly communist, China or some other countries? Also North Korea. So what they have done is they have retained the red flag. They have retained autocratic rule. But the economic policies have completely become capitalist. So it's not communism really from economic angle any longer. It's almost given up. So when the Cold War ended, capitalism became the default model. But capitalism themselves had a lot of problems. And those problems were actually ignored. And those problems include related to market economy, market society, market family, and so on. So we'll take a break, and after the break, we'll discuss it. Any questions, comments from anyone? Okay, good. So it's 3:50. So we'll take 15 minutes break and we'll restart around 4:05. Is that fine? Anyone has any comments? We'll restart around 4-5. Thank you so much. Namaste everyone. Shall we start? Are you all ready? Yes, great. Yeah, so can you see the PPT and is it moving? Is it going ahead? PPT आगे जा रहा है क्या? Please let me know by chat or by talking. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I hope I'm again audible and visible. So we'll continue our discussion. Only I'll request you once again to be much more interactive. थोड़ा सा और मजा आएगा if you all also contribute, give answers, talk or at least chat. Okay, so we were here that because of very serious problems of communism, capitalism again became a default model around 1990s and 91 and so on. And in those times, World Bank published certain papers advocating everyone to adopt a capitalist model. In fact, if you want any assistance or loan from World Bank, you have to adopt capitalist model. That was a condition. In Bharat also it was adopted. So who was the prime minister and finance minister then? Anyone remembers? किनके leadership में वो किया था and what was it called when it was introduced? So it was in 1992. At that time, who was the prime minister and who was the finance minister?
Finance Minister Manmohan Singh.
Very true. And prime minister was? Yes, very good from Ashwini Kumar ji. PV Narasimha Rao ji was the Prime Minister और भारत की financial position बहुत खराब थी. We hardly had any foreign exchange to import even oil, and we had to approach World Bank for assistance. And they immediately put a condition that we have to give up what was at that time called mixed economy. Means उसमें काफी socialism या communism का role था, and we had to adopt capitalism. वो policies को क्या बोलते थे, किसको याद है? What did India adopt? It was popularly known as LPG policy. तो ये क्या है? What is this LPG?
Liberalization, privatization, globalization.
Yes, liberalization, privatization and globalization. तो इसको थोड़ा डेकोरेटिव नाम दिया गया, but basically capitalism was more or less adopted. And this is not just in Bharat, in all parts of world, capitalism was more or less imposed. But जो countries already capitalist थी, which includes US, Europe and so on, they themselves had lot of problems, but those problems were more or less ignored. Yeah, Sangeeta ji has correct answer. Now, as per the principles of capitalism, it is based on market economy. But soon market economy got converted into market society, and it got ultimately converted into market family, especially in developed world. So everything is based on obsessive consumption or anirbandha upabhog. They have to keep on increasing consumer spending just to sustain their economies. So the whole market economy structure is based on unwanted consumption. This is all greed based economy, जिसका impact हो गया कि social relations were marketized, and ultimately even family relations were marketized. So if husband loses job, wife will immediately divorce him and go to another person who earns more. Ulta, if wife loses job also, her husband will divorce her and look for another woman who earns more. And this is a reality in countries like US or UK and so on. And so we know that divorce rates in those countries are almost 50%. In fact, marriage rates themselves are dropping in last 10-15 years. So more and more people are living in live-in type of relationship. The biggest share of family, size of households is continuously dropping from 5, it has dropped to just around 2 in US. And the biggest pie is single person or 2 persons household. And those 2 persons also in most cases are single mothers. So mother and the child, no father. Who is the father? Nobody knows. And that is the situation of market family. So in a greed-driven society, families and have completely broken. And we know that this has led to very high level of crimes. This has also led to nationalization of family. It means that who will take care of elderly, who will take care of children? So वो सारी responsibility अभी state पे गई है. It is the government which has to take care of elder. It is the government which has to take care of sick. It is the government which has to take care of children. And that has led to very high government spending, in turn leading to very high level of government debt, because the economy or the government deficit, government budget is in huge deficit, which is to be financed by debt. So it has impacted economically, socially, and also family wise. इसके बहुत detail में जा सकते हैं, but in short, I am trying to tell you. Anyone wants to add? Yes, please feel free. It has severely also impacted ecology. We know that carbon footprint or ecological footprint of most of the developed nations is very high. It is to the tune of 8 or 9. So if Earth is able to generate resources equal to 1, the consumption of resources in so-called developed nations like US, Canada, or Australia is something like 8 or 9 times. So the whole natural resources of Earth are getting destroyed. Very high level of pollution. They are now telling developed countries that you reduce pollution, but actually they themselves have extremely high level of consumption of natural resources, because the whole structure is exploitative, that you exploit nature as much as possible, as fast as possible. Mental health की condition भी खराब है. Despite being very high GDP, despite being very high level of prosperity, mental health is very bad. Most of the developed nations, about 75% of population is having some or other mental disorder. So society and family also doesn't look to be very happy. In general, there are a lot of problems of capitalist countries. Communism is already in trouble. So the question which world is looking at is there a third way? So our Bharatiya knowledge, our Indian economic system or Indian business systems is actually does have a solution for it. So in next few minutes, we'll discuss on that. कि भारतीय मॉडल फिर क्या है, what is the alternative to communism which has failed and capitalism which has lot of problems. So before going to the principles, we would try to look at what is a world economic history. So I hope you can see a table here. This is an outcome of the study which was put in by OECD countries under the leadership of very famous economist Angus Madison. So what do you mean by OECD countries? Organization of Economically Developed Countries, or G7 countries, as is popularly known as. They instituted a study in around 2000 under the leadership of Angus Madison. So he looked at the economy in last 2000 years. You can see the table here. From 00 to 1998, they have given the share of world GDP of all the countries. You can see here Western Europe, US, China, India, and so on. So it is very clearly visible based on their own records that in 00, Bharat had a share of 32.9% of world GDP. बीच के columns हटा दिए गए हैं. But up to 1000 also, we had a share of as much as 28.9% of world GDP. And right up to 1700, our share was 24.4%. So nearly 25% of whole world's economy was based in Bharat. Not 1, 2, 50 or 100 years, but for 1700 years. So you can imagine how long tradition of economic prosperity we have. And only during British time, our share failed. It failed from 24% to just 4% in 1950. So it is a continuous fall, poverty, and most of our problems, economic problems, happened only during British period. As long as we were on our own, we were a very prosperous and continuously prosperous economy. So there must be some economic model, some financial model, because of which we have a continuous prosperity. So we'll just discuss that. In the meantime, if you have any questions, comments, please go ahead. You can see here that Western Europe share was just 23% till 1820, and it was only during colonial times that it went up to 33%. US had almost nil share. It increased mainly in First and Second World War, and US became world leader. China की हालत more or less हमारे जैसे ही है. So these Western powers basically need money from abroad, cash flows from abroad, even to sustain their lifestyle. Whereas our economy was quite self-sustained for a very long time. Any other questions, comments from your side, please? This is same thing in graphical form. So in short, our story is not from rags to riches. We were always an empire, economic empire, and we are trying to re-establish ourselves. Don't feel that this data is kind of understated, and because I'm presenting Indian financial model, मैंने थोड़ा बढ़ा चढ़ा कर लिखा है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं. This is the actual data by Angus Madison. In fact, in Medicine Project 2018, that is more recent version, they have acknowledged that these figures are understated by 2/3 for India. So perhaps our share would be even better in those days, but I have not done any adjustments. I have just kept at what it is. And there are several other collaborative evidences also to this. I'll just tell you one. There is another economist known as Paul Byrock. And Paul Byrock has studied industrialization for last several hundred years. And he also came up with the conclusion that nearly 25% of world share of manufacturing till 1800 was from India. So सिर्फ GDP ऐसा नहीं है. We also have very strong industrial setup. We were not just dependent on agriculture, and we also had good infrastructure and agriculture. If we study the work of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, we'll come to it later on. He has elaborated on it, and there are other Indian authors as well. We'll look at it in the next few minutes. Fine. So going ahead, now that we have a strong, consistent performance record, let us try to look at what are the features of our economic or financial system. यहाँ पे मैंने कुछ लिखा है points. The first one is Western is materialistic versus ours is holistic. Western is comfort driven, ours is bliss driven. Western is individualistic, whereas ours is collective. Competition versus collaboration, cooperation. Centralized versus decentralized. In short, I have tried to put some details. Some of you, I think many of you would have seen the movie Three Idiots. तो थ्री इडियट्स के शुरू में ही कुछ एक सीन है. सो एनीवन डू यू रिमेम्बर दैट मूवी थ्री इडियट्स? किसने देखी है? किसको याद आ रहा है थ्री इडियट्स? शुरू में ही एक सीन रहता है, सम प्रोफेसर इज टेलिंग समथिंग टू द स्टूडेंट्स. आर यू एबल टू रिमेम्बर समथिंग? वो जो प्रोफेसर थे उनका नाम था वायरस और वीरू सहस्रबुद्धे, एंड ही इज एड्रेसिंग द स्टूडेंट एट द बिगिनिंग ऑफ द कॉलेज। और उस सीन में क्या है, कुछ कोई बता सकता है? Please try to remember, please try to interact more. So looks like many of you have forgotten. So what virus does is वो एक अंडा फेंक देते हैं, and she says that the world is like this. If you have to go ahead, kill others, destroy others, then only you can go ahead. This world is world of competition. Though it's an Indian movie, जो बता रहे हैं, that is the essence of competition. That's a Western mindset, that it is all based on survival of the fittest. Whereas Indian is more cooperation based. उसका भी एक बहुत अच्छा वीडियो है, यहाँ भी है, but I'm not showing that. That is called as Ubuntu. So किसको याद आ रहा है, कुछ पता है what is Ubuntu?
African, hello sir.
Yeah, please go ahead, go ahead.
I guess it is the term is derived from the Africa. It is the core philosophy of African tribal, I guess.
In fact, it's a core philosophy of all natives, including whether it is Africa or Bharat. Yeah, but what does that tell? Ubuntu क्या बताता है? Or what is that experiment?
That the this resource or this world is not belong to anyone. It is for all.
You are right. So वो एक experiment करते हैं. One American sociologist goes to Africa और वहां के छोटे बच्चों को they assemble them and tell them कि हम लोग एक रेस लगाएंगे. Whoever runs fastest will get basket full of fruits. So students agree and they say 1, 2, 3, and students don't start running. कुछ टाइम बाद सारे बच्चे एक दूसरे का हाथ पकड़कर भागते हैं, and they all together win that basket of fruits, and सब मिलके खाते हैं. वो so that American sociologist is shocked because his mindset is completely competition based. So बाद में वो पूछते हैं जो सीनियर बच्चे हैं उनको कि why did you not run? क्योंकि आप आगे भागते थे तो you would have got the whole of fruits. So the answer they give is, I think, is a essence of cooperation. They said कि हमारे friends के बिना how will we enjoy? So whatever we have, we should enjoy with our friends, with our family, with our society. That is an Indian thought process, which is a cooperation based. When I say Indian, it is true for all native cultures. और सभी cultures में ऐसा ही था before this competition and greed was introduced by capitalism and by materialistic ideologies. So cooperation based में whole society should be together, and that is a crux of our ideology. Now, of course, many Western management models also talk about teamwork, about being together, etc., because it is being increasingly acceptable. But philosophically, Western societies are individualistic and very much competition driven. Ours is collective and cooperation driven. That is centralized versus ours is decentralized. थोड़ा सा next slide में और details है. You can just have a view and look at it. So you can see some more points here. I hope this is visible to you. So you can see here few more points as I have tried to put in, wherein in a Western, it's a compartmentalized thinking, which is very right oriented, and man is considered as a mere material being, whereas Indian is integral thinking. It is duty oriented, that we should rather perform our duties, automatically the rights of others taken care. Whereas Western says that I want to exercise my right, दूसरे का जो होना है होने दो. In Western systems, man is considered as a material being, whereas in Indian system, it is more a human. So it is not just physical, but mind, spirit, intellect all together. Society there is viewed as a club of selfish individual. Under Indian system, society is at a center. We as individuals are limbs of the whole society. वहां पे exploitation of nature is considered normal. In fact, to increase ROI, if you get some natural resource, you want to exploit it as fast as possible. Whereas Bharatiya system बोलता है कि it should be milking of mother nature. You can take from nature, but as much as you need, don't destroy the whole system. So it is a milking of mother nature. Western is more comfort driven. Ours is for bliss. So we want some comforts, but within limits. Few more points. You would have heard of 4 objectives of life, are known as 4 purusharthas. They include dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Artha and kama. Artha is about earning money. Kama is about enjoying, trying to have more facilities, privileges, comforts. So Western mindset is revolving around artha and kama. Make more money and have more consumption. Try to fulfill your own desires. We also have artha and kama, but within the bounds of dharma and moksha. Dharma has nothing to do with religion. Dharma is about duties. So yes, we should make money. We should fulfill our desires, but it should be within the bounds of dharma or duties, and ultimate goal is moksha, or to liberalize, come out of all type of bonding. So acquisitiveness is a base there. Ours is more of a aparigraha or non-possession. Just have there, it's an obsessive consumption, because 1 unit of consumption you get some satisfaction. For next unit, the satisfaction goes down. That's why every time you need to increase the consumption to even retain the satisfaction. Whereas as per Bharatiya mindset, we advocate restrained consumption. Instead of increasing consumption, try to reduce your needs, try to reduce your desires, so that you get more and more satisfaction, you get more and more happiness with the same resources. So in nutshell, I have tried to put some points. Any questions, comments from you? Okay, we'll go ahead with how these points have been derived, what is a scriptural base, and then also some of the Indian thinkers. So the world today talks about sustainability, which is a combination of social, environmental, and economic. But our ancestors, our rishis always speak about it. So we know that our culture advocates yajna, which is a cycle of subsistence. So we have a Vyashti and Samashti. Vyashti is a smaller entity, for example, individual. Samashti can be a family, a bigger entity. So you can see here how that cycle operates. When we are small, essentially we get yogakshema from our family, which is a bigger entity. Uske bina hum survive bhi nahi hote the. So our yogakshema has come from family. As we grow up and develop our abilities, we have to give back our karma to family. So there is no expectation of return. क्योंकि हमें already योगक्षेम मिला है, we are essentially giving back karma. But when we give karma, the bigger entity, that is family or society, gives us back karma phala. फिर हमें फिर एक बार उससे भी बड़ा देना है in the form of यज्ञ. Now Vyashti can be an individual versus Samashti as a family. You can also take Vyashti as a family, then bigger entity is society. Society versus nature. So there are bigger and bigger entities, and this cycle goes on and on. It becomes bigger. अगर हम लोग selfish बन गए that we only take and take, don't give back, then the cycle gets stopped. Then we stop receiving. So भारतीय culture ये बोलता है कि we should take but give back more. Take, give back more. Then this cycle keeps on running and everyone continuously gets more. That's a cycle of subsistence. Then little more into Vedas and Upanishads, what they say about Bharatiya Artha Chintan. So we do consider wealth as important. Wealth is revered, provided it is earned in an ethical manner. So our Vedas, that is particularly Rigveda, which is the most ancient text of the world, has one devotional hymn or a sukta known as Sri Sukta. I'm not telling you the whole one, just 2 lines of it. It says, we do river Lakshmi Anapagamini. Apagamini means one which takes down, one which has come from unethical means. So we want Lakshmi, we want prosperity, but only when it comes from ethical means. Another stanza says, Manasa kamama kutim pachas satyam ashimahim. So मन में जो कामनाएं आती है, desires आते हैं, we want to fulfill them. But again, only on the path of Satya or only on the path of truth, not from any unethical means. So Shubha Labha is advocated. There is another very interesting Upanishad known as Isha Upanishad. This is the first line of that. It says, Ishavasyamidam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. So the whole world, jagat jo hai, that belongs to the God or to the Isha or Almighty. Tina tyaktina bunjita. Bunjita यानी भोग लेना. So we should enjoy, but we should enjoy by renouncing. So we have to give back. And ma gruda kasya dhanam. So don't lust for other person's possessions. Then we have got 4 purusharthas. We have just discussed, so I'll skip it. Many people read Bhagavad Puran. This Bhagavad Puran has a very interesting writing about how we should divide our income. So the whole income should be divided into 5 parts, as you can see here. Okay, are you able to, I hope you can see it. So it is advocated that the whole income should be divided into 5 parts. 20% we should use for society, give back to society for charity. 40% should be long-term investment. So we should not consume all that we have. We have to keep something for contingency and reinvest for flourishment of business, and only use the last 40% for enjoyment or fulfillment of our desires. This is what they call it as a Shubha Labha. And what is interesting is our society, maybe unknowingly, does follow to some extent this type of income distribution. So, any idea what is our percentage of savings in Bharat versus where, how much is the saving in US? Anyone can tell? Our saving percentage is around 28%. A few years ago, it was around 35%. So it is somewhat near the prescribed limit. Whereas in developed world, it is in Europe, it's around 10%. And in countries like US, it is very less. It is 4 to 5% individual savings. So yes, our culture advocates us to consume in limit and save more for future. And that has what has helped our economy. Next is about purpose of work. We have already discussed Karma Yoga, that we should work for our own satisfaction or for achieving full potential of ours and not just for getting returns. It's more to give back to society. And yes, we will automatically get returns, but basically we have to go back to give back to society. Then several social initiatives existed in Bharat from very ancient times. They include artisan guilds. There was also a corporate activity, not as like companies today, but there used to be a large artisan guilds. In fact, उससे ही बाद में ज्ञाति बनी और बाद में जाति बनी. But basically, earlier people doing same businesses has had guilds or had shrenis, from where, so it was cooperation, working together, training each other was the essence. Next is about moral values. So all our writings give lot of importance to honesty, fairness, higher purpose of life as it's called nowadays, and so on. These are some of our ancient writings in the form of smritis and shrutis, but I'll just take it ahead in the interest of time. It is very interesting that from a very old time, India had a well-developed system of banking, and we had a financial instrument like hundis, different types of hundis, including demand hundis, including hundis, which would be payable after 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. So short-term funding, long-term funding, also several banking regulation or monetary policy regulations existed in many of our smritis, including Manusmriti, Yagyavalkya Smriti, and so on. What is interesting in most of the religions in Western world, whether it is Judaism or Christianity or Islam, there are restrictions on interest. But in India, both owned and borrowed funds were allowed. In fact, such financial system was very much promoted, even from ancient times. Now coming to some of our thinkers. So who all can be considered our economic thinkers? Can you give a few names, either from ancient or from modern Bharat? थोड़ा सा मोनोलॉग हो रहा है actually. I'm expecting a lot of contribution from you, but not many answers from your side. So कोई बता सकता है कोई economic thinkers you had heard of? Yes, 10 इन्होंने चाणक्य बताया है. Very good. Anything else? Any other thinkers? अश्विन कुमार जी लिख रहे हैं कौटिल्य, वेरी ट्रू, चाणक्य एंड कौटिल्य बोथ आर सेम. आई एम आस्किंग अबाउट इंडियन इकोनॉमिक थिंकर्स. Okay, I'll go ahead. So we know that one of the ancient law books from Bharat was Manusmriti. Manusmriti or Manav Dharma Shastra as it's called. So this is giving several laws for proper regulation of society, जिसमें standard weights का mention है, settlement of debt disputes, written agreement between debtor and creditor. So बहुत सारे business and commercial laws का mention हमें as ancient times as मनुस्मृति देखने को मिलता है. Fixing of wages for labor और interest rates, ऐसे कई सारे अच्छे rules and regulations हमें मनुस्मृति के समय से, which is perhaps thousands of years ago, we do see. There are also other smritis including Yagyavalkya Smriti and so on. They have also laid down various rules which were adopted and modernized from time to time. Then there are very interesting writings from Shukraniti. So are you aware who was Shukra or Shukracharya? कुछ अच्छे आंसर्स अश्विनी कुमार जी और संगीता जी ने बोले हैं, दादा भाई नवरोजी वगैरह. आई कम टू देम, दे आर रिलेटिवली मॉडर्न टाइम्स. हु वाज शुक्राचार्य, कोई बता सकता है? शुक्राचार्य को दैत्यों के गुरु मानते थे. सो दैत्याज आर, यस, विशाल सिंह जी ने अच्छा आंसर दिया है, गुरु ऑफ राक्षसास. लक्ष्मीकांत जी एज वेल. सो राक्षसास वेर मटेरियलिस्टिक पीपल एज मेंशन्ड इन पुराणास. सो उनके गुरु होने के कारण शुक्र नीति में बहुत सारा मेंशन है about economics. There is a very good paper on Shukraniti Sara, a political economy text by Professor Satish Devdar from IIMA. So this is some summary of it, that ministers appointed in current age, how you should appoint ministers, about departmental transfers, how much revenue deficit is permitted, maintenance of buffer stocks by the government, provision of public goods by government, policy of behavioral nudge when market forces go below cost, imposing some extra tax on buyers, efficiency wage, labor relation practices, time and place utility of products. ऐसे बहुत सारे मुद्दे शुक्र नीति सार में हमें देखने को मिलते हैं. So it has many more sections, section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on. So this is prehistoric, thousands of years ago, we don't know exactly time period of it. उसमें बाद में मेजर राइटर है चाणक्य जी, जिनका मेंशन आप में से कई लोगों ने किया. So what were the important books by Chanakya? And any principles told by Chanakya, can you tell? यस, विशाल सिंह जी ने अच्छा उत्तर दिया है. अर्थशास्त्र है, चाणक्य नीति है, सही है. बोथ द इंपॉर्टेंट बुक्स यू हैव मेंशन्ड वेरी वेल. सो अर्थशास्त्र written about 321 BCE, and it's a very good book on political economy. So Chanakya ji philosopher, strategist, economist, jurist थे, royal advisor थे. So one example from Chanakya Niti, it says dharmasya sukhasya moolam dharmaha. So root of happiness is dharma. It is ethics, moral. But root of dharma is artha. Because properly अगर आपको ethically रहना है तो you need enough money. So you have to take care of economy and so on. Next is चाणक्य. चाणक्य हम जानते हैं कि आजकल बहुत सारे बुक्स वगैरह आ गए हैं चाणक्य पे. So Chanakya in the Arthashastra has written in detail about imports, exports, tax slabs, when government should tax, when it should not tax, then wages according to human capital element, labor productivity, and so on. चाणक्य जी पे काफी लिखा गया है. He has written about accounting, audits, we should follow ethics, governance, about welfare state in those days in 300 BCE. Next is very important contribution from Bhagwan Gautam Buddha, what is known as Buddhist economics, which gives lot of importance to reducing our wants or our needs. So this is about 5th or 6th BCE, and E. Schumacher was a very important person who coined this term Buddhist economics, and it's based on Samadhi and Prajna. So Buddhist economics is spiritual and philosophical approach. People are interdependent and we are also dependent of nature. So selfishness or acquisitive perquisite should be eliminated. We should follow aparigraha. We should reduce our need, and well-being is less dependent on outwardly wealth. It's more dependent on cultivation of inner or spiritual wealth. ऐसे बहुत अच्छे points are there in Buddhist economics. Then there is also Jain economics. We know that Jain viewpoint gives lot of importance to ahimsa. So we should not harm anyone, harm any animal, harm any other person, and then we can live peacefully and happily if we respect other. So when we do get wealth, we have to give it back. These are some of the important features of Jain economics. Then the next is a very famous author, Thiruvalluvar. So who was Thiruvalluvar? कोई बता सकता है? And from which state he was? Yeah, I'm sure there would be some few people from Tamil Nadu. So Sangeeta ji has rightly told that he was a very important writer from Tamil Nadu around 31 BC, a very celebrated Tamil poet and a great saint. And he has written about 4 principles of prosperous society. Faith in Bhagwan God, economic resources, spiritual leadership, and observance of moral law. So economic ideas are found in a book called as Purul, that is dealing with wealth. Now this Purul, book of Purul, we can say, is about division of wealth and polity. So there are very interesting writings on it. And remember, almost all authors have written on similar line, whether it is Manusmriti, whether it is Chanakya, whether it is Thiruvalluvarji, and so on. Next important one, Santa was Santa Kabir. इन्होंने थोड़ा सा ओल्ड हिंदी में लिखा है. I have just mentioned one of it. It says, साई इतना दीजिए जामे कुटुम समाए. So we want wealth or prosperity, but उतना ही दीजिए कि which is enough for our kutumba, and what we get more, we should give back to the society. Another important author is Sant Jnaneshwar, Maharashtra se hai, and today happens to be Sanjeevan Samadhi Tithi of Sant Jnaneshwar. Sant Jnaneshwar ji ने भी लिखा है more on spiritual economic lines, realizing the importance of peace, inner health. He has written about employee engagement in a psychological manner and so on. Not, of course, in today's words, but exactly giving the same principles about need to control greed. Otherwise, we can't go along with people and so on. बहुत सारे points है. I'm going ahead in the interest of time. Next Santa again from Maharashtra is Santa Tukaram. उन्होंने बोला है कि जोडोनिया धन उत्तम व्यवहारे उदास विचारे वेच करी. Just in one line, I think it summarizes Bharatiya economic thought. Jodoniya dhana. So it doesn't say you don't need dhana or wealth. In fact, we should accumulate wealth, but through uttama vyavahare, through ethical or good type of business or good type of activity. And when it comes to spending, udasa vichare vecha kari. Vech karna and spend karna. So when you spend, only spend on what is really required to be spent. Don't unnecessarily waste the resources by unwanted consumption. बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है, उसमें और भी चीजें हैं, जैसे पर नारी का रिस्पेक्ट करो, अन्य व्यक्तियों का रिस्पेक्ट करो, भूत दया करो, ऐसे बहुत सारे पॉइंट्स इसमें आए हुए हैं. Now we'll go to some of the authors in a relatively modern period who have written on economics, जिसमें एक दो लोगों ने इसका रिस्पॉन्स भी दिया था. So some of the initial authors included Raja Ram Mohan Rai, then Dadabhai Nauroji, followed by Mahadev Govind Ranade, Swami Vivekananda, and so on. We'll look at important writing of some of the authors. So a very major writing was by Dadabhai Nauroji. कुछ लोगों ने पहले रिस्पॉन्स भी दिया है. So उन्होंने क्या लिखा? Somebody knows? Can you tell what was the essence of it? So Dadabhai Nauroji was the first MP, elected MP in British Parliament. And he was a Parsi. He presented a paper theory or a book known as Drain of Wealth, wherein he has tabulated how British has drained Indian wealth. शुरू में हम लोग जो एंगस मेडिसिन का चार्ट देखते थे, how our GDP share came down and Western Europe went up. He has articulated that exploitation very well. And again, remember, he has understated it kind of, because he can only write if there is some base. Otherwise, he would have been thrown into jail. जैसे लोकमान्य तिलक जी के बारे में बाद में किया गया. And he has mentioned that it is not just economic exploitation. What are the means? Through trade, through home charges, through profits, and so on. And further, he also went on to write that it is impacting not only financially, but it's a drain of talent and it's a loss of confidence for Bharat. Next interesting writer is Swami Vivekananda. I hope most of you would have heard about it. So Swami ji अमेरिका गए थे, कब गए थे, क्या किसको याद है? And in which program did he participate? Yes, she did go to Chicago for Sarva Dharma Parishad. And which year approximately? So it was 1893. Normally, he is known for his yogic and nationalistic writings, which do exist. But remember that he has given a very good, presented a paper titled as Use of Silver in India, which elaborates about economic thinking, how we should do away with social injustice, exploitation, and about positive freedom, freedom to contribute, and so on. Next important person was लोकमान्य तिलक जी. उन्होंने कर्मयोग पे गीता रहस्य नाम का बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बुक लिखा है. But he was not only a writer, he was very much a doer, a leader of Swaraj and Swadeshi, and he advocated Indian manufacturing. So as what we can call it as a crowdfunding, he created Paisa Fund. He created in those days a mall, a cooperative retail mall, so that Indian products can be sold in the premium place in Mumbai. So he also promoted entrepreneurship in very big way in those days. So he was really a doer who promoted all these things. Next one, very important contribution by Mahatma Gandhi. महात्मा गांधी जी ने हिंद स्वराज लिखा. He advocated simple living, Swadeshi, and put up a theory of trusteeship, which is an interesting theory for corporate governance, that owners should not treat them as owners, that they can do anything with the business. They are rather trustees. That's how the directors or owners should act. And that will be in their own interest and also in the interest of business, in the interest of company. Next, very important writer is Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar. उनका जो पहला ही टेक्स्ट है, that was a thesis titled as Ancient Indian Commerce. He presented in 1915 in Columbia University, wherein in detail he has elaborated agriculture, industry, trade, commerce, infrastructure in the ancient India. So it's a very interesting book. Again, from there you can see how and why India came down during the colonial period economically. He has also written about commercial relations in India, Middle East, and Europe. How the whole world trade revolved around Bharat. जैसे भारत से होने वाले commercial relations close हो गए, Europe, especially Eastern Europe, went down, and then Western Europe came up through sea routes. And there it's what domination of Western Europe followed by colonization started. उनके और भी writings है, like problem of rupee, provincial finance, and so on. His last essay, which he presented, is titled as Buddha and Marx. He presented it in 1956, very interesting, where he has emphasized that material well-being alone is not enough. That's why he says that even if Soviet Union is highly successful, remember he's writing in 1956 when Soviet Union was supposed to be very successful. So he says, even if it is successful, it is nothing better than fattening of pigs. Because we are human beings' welfare cannot be only by money or material well-being. We need Dhamma, we need moral, ethical principles. Then alone we can have sustainable happiness. Next interesting author is Deen Dayal Upadhyay ji. He emphasized that we should not copy Western models like socialism, individualism, or capitalism, we should rather go by our ideology, which is integral humanism. And he also emphasized on Antyodaya. So Western thought processes are leading to lesser economic outcome, and they are also creating problem for our mindset. We are not able to develop fully, and we should have our own process. That's what was advocated by him. उन्होंने इंटीग्रल ह्यूमैनिज्म लिखा, जिसमें ये इंटीग्रल अप्रोच है. You can see zero, that is individual at the center. And we have the capacity as human beings to expand our consciousness. So from individual, we move to family. We think of ourselves as a family. कई बार हम फैमिली के बियॉन्ड जाके सोसाइटी पे जाते हैं, नेशन में जाते हैं. कभी भारत पाकिस्तान का मैच होता है तो सब लोग खुद को नेशन समझते हैं. Then we can become one with nature, and highest level which rishis and great people reach is Parmeshti, where we become one with Parabrahma. But everyone can't go to that level, but we can always expand our consciousness. Sometimes we come back, but again we can expand. That's the capacity of human being, and that is an integral approach. If we adopt it, automatically exploitation stops. We become one with society, with nature, and so on. And we take as much as we need. So I know it's a long thing to discuss, but this is about development of consciousness. Next important thinker was Dattopant Thengdi ji. He wrote a very famous book known as Third Way. That capitalism and communism are not the ways, but we should rather move on Indian path, which is a third way. This is in nutshell all the important authors who have written from Indian angle. Now, it is not that all this is in theory. There are some unique features of Indian economic and business systems. In the interest of time, हम लोग बहुत detail में नहीं जाएंगे, but just a snapshot away that we do have a very strong family system, much stronger than Western world. We have significant amount of community orientation. We are leaders in self-employment. I'll show some data. You can see here that size of household in Bharat is much higher as compared to US and other Western economies. Then, as per this is the ILO data, that we are a country perhaps having the highest self-employment rate, because entrepreneurship, innovation is, especially entrepreneurship is our culture. Most of our people are self-employed. Though educated people run after jobs, it is in the Indian DNA to have own businesses, a decentralized turn of economy with more self-employment. You can see the actual data as well. Sources of financing में बहुत सारे organizations है, जितो जैसे, society, communities, caste, they help each other. We have a growth of microfinance or self-help groups, which has not happened in other places, because community living is our essence. We have already discussed this, that we have a much higher saving rate compared to many other parts of the world. This is also very interesting, that because of bonding of families, Bharat is a leader in remittances from abroad. Firstly, Indians abroad save, they send back the money to India. This is slightly an older side, but you can see here right from 2008 to 2017, Bharat is the leader. In fact, currently those inflows have crossed $125 billion. Remember, this is a very big amount, and it takes care of all our deficits. So much money flows in. This is not FII, not FDI. This is the remittances coming from individual Indians. That is mainly because of our culture, because of our economic thinking. हमारे स्टॉक मार्केट्स काफी डिसेंट्रलाइज्ड है एंड अदर सक्सेस स्टोरीज आई थिंक यू आर ऑल अवेयर आई विल एंड हियर महर्षि अरविंदो जी ने 125 years ago बोला था that India shall rise on the ruins of the West. And today, Western systems, Western economies are really in trouble. And our economy is strengthening, our culture is strengthening. And I think a Maharshi like Aurobindo could have visualized it much before. These are some of our writings, research papers. And we do offer one course in IIT Mumbai on Indian businesses and Bharatiya model of economy, which also I have mentioned here. And these are some more Western papers as well and further writings. Yeah, with this I'll stop. Namaste, dhanyavad to all. We have few more minutes. If you have any questions, queries, comments, please feel free to share. I'll try to share these PPTs with you and once again call upon all of you to do lot of research on this. See, this should be included in teaching as per NEP, but I think for researchers, for professors like you, it is very important कि आप इस पे research करिए. There are several interesting concepts which are untested, so we can publish our research in high impact journals if we come out with our own good ideas, of course backed by proper data, not because हम Indians है बोलेंगे अच्छा है अच्छा है, ऐसा नहीं चलेगा. We have to really justify it through proper data and write it in a proper fashion. And I'm sure many of you would like to contribute like this. Fine, you can be in touch with me. मैं मेरा email ID भी share कर रहा हूँ यहाँ पे. Okay, always feel free to keep in touch. Namaste, धन्यवाद.